Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. We have the brain dump episode with Mr. Anthony. He is searching for topics, so I'm just going to keep talking until he jumps in here.
What's up, guys? So to lay some context here, I have this list. I have this big old list of ideas and concepts because I'm doing another podcast just by myself where I talk about things. And there's some really interesting ones in here I think that you and I can talk about. One of them in particular is this is an interesting dichotomy. I want to get your take on it. So here's the phrase. You can only do so much, but it's probably more than you think. When you hear that.
Okay, yeah, so let me say it again. So you can only do so much, but you can do more than you think.
Yep, you can only do so much, but it's probably more than you think.
It's probably more than you think.
You can only do so much.
Why are you in my brain?
Dude, all right, so I want you to unpack this for me, because I'm curious. Like, we haven't talked about this before. I have no idea where you're going to go with this. I really just looked down at the sheet of paper and I'm like, that one. Let's talk about that one, because there's actually this unique push and pull with this one that I think is really important, and it's hard to get right.
This is God, man, you really perplexed me here.
See that, people? Speechless. Made him off.
I feel like you just got out of my hour-and-a-half meeting with my new business partner. You know what it makes me think about? It makes me think about the need. Here's the way I think about it. I think that people have a really hard time understanding that there's certain businesses or avenues that we're going that maybe means something 3 years from now or 2 years from now, but they're laying the groundwork for something else. And I might be like getting off topic here, but mainly I'm saying it's like, everybody asks me how I do so much. Well, everything doesn't have the same time horizon as everything else. Like the coaching, like the podcasting is like 1A, like that's number one. And the clients come number one for everything. But because we built everything out on a long time horizon, right? This is my new thing with my clients. You can create anything that you want as long as you have the proper expectations on the proper time horizon. And I think that we're not allowing the right space, right? You can do anything you want is basically what you're telling me, is like, Austin, you could do anything you want if you have 60 years. If I told you you could do anything you want, but you have 6 weeks, I'd be like, oh, I can only do one thing.
Yeah. So what you're talking about there is pretty in line with the concept here. Like, it's at its core. I think about that phrase. I think Tony Robbins says is that we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 5. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, investors, high achievers, like whatever you want to call it, like we get into this mode where it's like, I feel like I should be doing more. I should be further along than I am. And so we put more and more and more on the plate, and yet that doesn't translate to more progress necessarily. It translates to wheels spinning faster, but we still have the same amount of rubber to put on the road. And so we only have so much traction that we can accomplish, and any more wheel spin is just wheel spin. It's not translated into motion. And the thing that we talk about a lot, you and I, is the idea of doing less better, and focusing on those things that ultimately will translate to traction, those few levers that when you pull them, they have maximum effect.
It's like you're in all my coaching calls this week. Look, I literally made all my clients write down a list, right? And then there's this long fucking list. And I was like, what's the big rocks? What's the things that you need to get done this week? And you're not allowed. I literally took it off their list. You're not allowed to do anything else until those get done. And you have to text me when they're done. Because what we have right now, most of my clients, is a recipe with 90 million things done 80%.
Yeah.
And we're not going anywhere. Like you said, just spinning our wheels.
Yeah, there's the priority issue, which is you can't have multiple priorities. Priority means like the thing. You can only have one priority. You can have levels of importance, but we do a really poor job typically when we sit down and say what's the highest priority, most important thing. We put it on the calendar, and yet it tends to get easily pushed. Whatever those really important things are, they get pushed in favor of the urgent things that we look at and say, oh, this is urgent. Or we fool ourselves. We let ourselves lie to ourselves and say, this is more important than it really is. And so it's okay if I turn my attention from this thing to this other thing. It's like, nope.
I don't have the exact quote, but it's something along the lines of like, we allow other people to inject their urgency in our life.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
Yep.
This is a thing. Like, we need to do it now. Like, no, not really. Like,
Nope.
Like there's, and from a context of writing your schedule, right? Think about it this way. Like when let's say somebody's reaching out to you and you're saying like, okay, that's great. Like, oh, you know what I'm really getting good at in business? Like this, I'm actually proud of myself for this. Putting things on the proper horizon and not giving ourselves too much pressure. There's like 17 things that we could do right now, but we push those out to like June because getting wins for our clients and a couple things that we're doing right now is more important. And like, I'm going to have my own NFT project, but that doesn't need to happen right now. And so the previous me would look everything in a short-term horizon, but now I'm like, dude, you're going to be doing this till you're 90 years old. Like what's the most important thing this month? What can we get done? Like it's the taxes or it's this or that. And then, but here's what we're not talking about, right? You're not talking about, by having this ridiculously long list, you're not talking about the opportunity cost that you're losing in your mind because you're always thinking about the thing. Instead of structuring it, prioritize and knocking it out one at a time, you're going to gain more confidence in yourself and you're going to gain more ability and more energy the more you knock out said list the right way.
I used to say something. I used to say it a lot more, but people always looked at me like I was like growing a third ear. So I don't say it quite as much anymore because for whatever reason people didn't get it. But when you talked about not letting other people inject their urgency into your life, it reminded me of this. And what I would always tell people is never rush and never be rushed. And what I meant by it, for whatever reason, I don't think it translated well to people going like, oh, I really get it. What it meant was like, one, don't rush yourself when you're doing things. Do them slowly, do them well as they need to be. The second part of that is never be rushed, is don't let the world and its external pressures make you feel like you have to go faster. And I tell people this, the reason this always came up is because I drive really slow and people are like, drive faster. I'm like, never rush, never be rushed. Like you can't rush me because I'm going to get there on my timeline. Now, the other part of this is I did a post about this last year. I think that really resonated with a lot of people, which is either you own your schedule or somebody else does, right? Like those are the only two options. Either you do or somebody else does. And so when you own your schedule, it's sitting down and saying, this is the day, this is the week, the life that I want to live. These are the things that I'm going to prioritize, and these are the things that I'm going to accomplish, and then guarding that time because you created it for yourself and said, this is the life you want to live, right? Guarding this ruthlessly and without apology against anybody else trying to inject themselves. So right now I'm writing a book with Savannah Arroyo, and I have until the end of this month. I set myself the goal of like at the end of March, I am done writing this thing. And that required me to block off like 3 full weeks, about 2 weeks ago, and say like, nobody's getting on my calendar. I'm just writing. And I can't tell you how many meetings, how many people, my assistants constantly like, hey, this so-and-so, this thing, only like, I can't find any time on your calendar for this. Is it okay if we like carve like an hour out of your writing time? And I'm like, no, I know it looks so easy because you see these large chunks of time on the calendar that say writing, and therefore it feels like, oh, we could probably squeeze something else in there. It's like, no, set the priority and guard it ruthlessly.
This right here, I could spend the next year talking about, because this changed my life and changed the way I feel about myself and my business, and time blocking and setting up a schedule the way that I wanted to. And then if they can't fit in that, sliding it to the next week or sliding it the afterwards. And then me not feeling bad that we got to wait 2 weeks to get on a call.
Yep.
Like, right. If
oh
it's
my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy the world that we live in now when like literally people like I have 3 emails from people who are like, hey, I'm trying to get on your calendar, but it looks like the soonest I can do it is August 18th. I'm like, I'm sorry. Then it looks like the soonest that we can chat is August 18th. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Like my calendar fills up. It's full. And like people are like, oh, maybe we can squeeze some time. And I'm like, I can't because to do that, to say yes to that means I have to say no to something else. And one, I'm not prepared to like take up that mental bandwidth of trying to weigh and say these things because I've already previously said this is the priority. I've already done that mental calculus.
Dude, it's along the lines of what Leland said on the podcast and what I said earlier. You know, don't allow somebody else to inject their values into you. You know, don't allow somebody else urgency. Don't allow somebody else's need to get a hold of you. Like, dude, on the backside of this, the amount of fucking people that have said, I'll do anything, and I'm going to get upset, any fucking thing to save my life from addiction or to help, that have scheduled a call and then not shown up to it is like fucking 30.
Yep.
So you wonder why I'm so fucking serious about my schedule. It's ridiculous. You took up somebody else's spot.
Dude, Austin, you know how I get on this one, man. You've
yes,
seen me.
I talk about you all the time.
It's super. I think it's funny because I think initially, like a year ago, when you started to see that side of me, I think you maybe didn't fully like appreciate it yet. You were kind of like, oh, yeah, Anthony's rigid. Like he like guards his schedule. Like he's a dick. Like because people like if you don't show up, I'm like, I give you 6 minutes to show up. If you're not there, I move on.
Gone. And not to mention, he ain't responding to your text either. Gone.
No, I'm done. I'm gone. I'm on to the next thing. And it's exactly what you said is like, and I screw up. I fuck up all the time where it's like, oh shit, I showed up late. I didn't show up for that thing. And I have to own the fact that I disrespected your time and your schedule. And I have to own that and find a way to make that right if I ever can. But like my goal when I look at my calendar is like, I'm going to be there. Like nothing's going to stop me from being at that meeting. I'm not going to reschedule at the last second. I'm not going to shift it. I'm not going to disappear on you because it's the most important thing. Dude, it's like whatever's on that calendar.
I'm not suggesting, okay, guys, and I'm not trying to paint myself as some fucking hero, but I had 2 meetings that I couldn't reschedule because they were very important. And I took those motherfuckers when I had COVID in Costa Rica. And the guy was like, why are you here? And I go, because adding value to you and helping you out in your business, I told you I would do it. And I'm not painting myself as a hero, but in that moment, I helped him out of a bad situation that was time sensitive and it needed to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, like you said, there's ways or different things, but here's my thing. And some of me as a human hates that we've got here. Like, I really do hate that we've got here. But like, you know, the joke in the comedian world is like, you know, nobody comes up to your house uninvited anymore and knocks on the door. You know, like who the fuck is this? There's a murderer out there. Yeah, like, who's that person? What are you doing out there? Go away. But all I'm saying is this thing, in my opinion, the 2 things that run your life and can create success are habits and scheduling. Take a little time on Friday or Sunday and line out your schedule. And you know what? The number one thing I've seen as CEOs, like people that runs business of the companies I coach, you're so far along in your thinking that you think the information that you've taken in that day is not valuable to the people that work for you. So you don't deem it necessary. So you're not properly communicating. So all I'm saying is communicate with the people on your schedule, communicate with you, the people that work with you, and dial in your schedule. And I swear to God, it'll change your entire life.
Yeah. And we talk about this all the time, and it's worthy of its own episode again, because it's just so damn important, is that your attention, your focus, it is your most valuable asset, not your time. Like time is not, like, because time is not this thing that you really actually control. What you control is where you're putting your attention at any given moment, and like what quality and quantity that you're showing up in. So like I could give you my time on this call right now and just show up and then sit here like a limp fish and do nothing, right? I didn't really give you my full attention, my full focus. And so when you're doing your schedule, when you're laying out this ideal life, this ideal work that you want to do so that you can, you can do less better, and in the process get more done, focus on saying like, this is where I'm going to put my attention. Like that's what you're doing when you're creating your schedule, is like you're allocating that most valuable of resource. You're saying, here I'm going to put my attention, here I'm going to put my attention, here I'm going to put my attention. And then don't let anything get in there and take your attention. Like guard it ruthlessly, like it's a bank, like it's your money. Because you wouldn't let somebody just walk in off the street and like take your safe. Like if somebody walked into my house right now and took my wallet, I'd be pretty pissed, right? But that's no different than somebody just calling me on the phone right now. It's no different.
Oh, yeah. And we've gotten here. Like, and it's like, I look at like my dollar per hour and I'm like, dude, like I'm very adamant that nothing on my schedule is not a fuck yes. Like, and I think because that, and I'm attentive to it, and like I look at a year ago and like, dude, there was like fucking 60% of that thing was shit I shouldn't have been having meetings about. And so like it's amazing how effective and fucking assassin and how much you can get done when your attention's on the things that it should be on, right? Like just fucking
and that's where having a team, that's where having a coach, that's where having a mentor, mastermind, a group of people that you can like bounce things. Because like sometimes go back a year ago, you would have said these are important things for me to be putting my attention onto, right? Mm-hmm. A year later, you look back and like, that was a bad use of my time. Like time and distance, perspective, experience, these things matter. And so that's where a coach and mentor groups, they can really help accelerate and points out the areas where you're like, yeah, you think that's important, but realistically it's not. This is. Now go do it.
Yeah, love it. Guys, hope you got some value from this. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.